The space station floated in the darkness like a city made of metal and light. They called it Nexus 7. It was old, ugly, and crowded. 100 different species lived there, worked there, and sometimes died there. Ships came and went every hour, carrying goods from 1,000 different worlds. The air always smelled like engine oil and alien food, and too many bodies packed into too little space. Had lived on Nexus 7 for 3 years now. She worked in a supply depot on Deck 14, one of the lower levels where the lights flickered and the heating never worked properly. It was not a good job. The pay was bad. The hours were long, but it was honest work, and honest work was hard to find for humans this far from Earth. She was 24 years old. She had a small face with sharp eyes and hands that were rough from years of lifting boxes. She did not talk much. She did not smile much. The other workers thought she was shy. The aliens thought she was afraid. They were all wrong but did not bother to correct them. Back on Earth in a city called had trained in a martial art called Hapkido. She started when she was 6 years old. Her grandfather taught her. He was a small man with white hair and hands like iron. He always said the same thing. The river does not fight the rock. The river flows around the rock, and one day the river wears the rock away. Trained for 18 years, she earned her black belt at 15. By the time she left Earth, she could break a grown man's arm in 3 different ways, but she kept this to herself. Out here, among the aliens, it was better to be underestimated. The aliens on Nexus 7 did not think much of humans. They called Earth a death world because of its harsh conditions, but they did not mean it as a compliment. To them, humans were small, weak, and short-lived. They were good for simple labor and not much else. Though with their scales and massive bodies looked down on humans like they were insects. The tall and thin with 4 arms treated humans like children. Even the smaller species acted superior. Supervisor was unnamed. He was fat and lazy and cruel. He sat in his office all day while the workers sweated on the depot floor. When he did come out, it was usually to shout at someone. He especially liked shouting at humans. "You are slow," he would say. "Your species is defective. On my world, we would not let creatures like you breed." The human workers learned to keep their heads down. They learned to say "yes, sir," and "sorry, sir," and to swallow their anger like bitter medicine. Most of them had families to feed. Most of them had nowhere else to go. So they endured. Endured too, but she did not forget. She watched everything. She learned the station's rhythms, its rules, its secrets. She noticed which security cameras worked and which ones were broken. She memorized the shift schedules of the guards. She studied the aliens around her, learning how they moved, where they were strong, where they were weak. They were big and powerful, but they were also slow. Their scales protected them from cuts and scratches, but their joints were just as fragile as human joints. Maybe more fragile. They were fast, but they had thin bones that broke easily. Every species had weaknesses. Made note of all of them. At night in her tiny room on Deck 16, she practiced. She did not have much space, but she did not need much. She stretched. She shadowboxed. She practiced her throws and locks and strikes against an imaginary opponent. She kept her body sharp like a blade hidden in a drawer. Her roommate was another human, a girl named who worked in the station's food courts. Was cheerful and talkative and always complaining about her customers. Yelled at me today because his soup was too hot, said one night, lying on her bed. Too hot. He breathes fire and he says the soup is too hot. Smiled but did not answer. She was doing push-ups on the cold metal floor. You are strange, said. You never complain, you never get angry. How do you stay so calm? Finished her push-ups and sat up. Her face was not even red. I am not calm, she said. I am patient, there is a difference. Did not understand, but she did not ask more questions. She was used to being mysterious. The days passed slowly on Nexus 7. Loaded boxes. She checked manifests. She dealt with rude traders and angry merchants and supervisors who treated her like dirt. She did her job and kept her head down and waited. She did not know what she was waiting for. She only knew that one day something would happen. One day someone would push too hard. One day she would stop flowing around the rock. And on that day, the rock would learn what the river could do. That day came on an ordinary evening in the middle of an ordinary week. The station's lights had just switched to night mode, casting everything in a dim blue glow. Was working late, finishing up the last shipments of the day. She did not know that her life was about to change. She did not know that in a few short hours, her name would be known across the entire station. She only knew that she was tired and hungry and ready to go home. But the universe had other plans. The trouble started with a cargo ship called the Iron Fang. It arrived at Dock 14C just as was preparing to end her shift. The ship was made, old and battered, with rust marks on its hull and engine smoke leaking from cracks in its armor. The captain was unnamed. He was big, even by standards. His scales were dark like storm clouds, and his yellow eyes burned with the kind of anger that came from drinking too much and sleeping too little. He walked off his ship like he owned the entire station. "I need my cargo processed now," said. His voice was loud and rough. "No waiting, no inspections, now." Looked at him calmly. She was standing behind the processing counter, a clipboard in her hand. Around them, the depot was mostly empty. A few workers moved boxes in the distance. The night shift was always quiet. "Sir, all cargo must go through standard inspection," said. Her voice was polite but firm. "Station rules. It will take about 2 hours." His eyes narrowed. He stepped closer to the counter. He was almost 3 times size. His shadow fell over her like a dark cloud. "Do you know who I am, little human?" he growled. "I have been trading on this station since before your grandmother was born. I do not wait for inspections. I do not follow rules made for lesser species. Sir, the rules apply to everyone." "I am not everyone." Did not move. She did not blink. She had faced bullies before, on Earth, on other stations. They were all the same. They used their size and their voices to make others afraid. They expected everyone to bend, but did not bend. "I understand you are frustrated," she said, "but I cannot change station regulations. If you have a complaint, you can speak to my supervisor tomorrow morning." His face twisted with rage. Behind him, his crew watched from the ship's ramp. They were grinning. They had seen their captain do this before. They knew what came next. "You dare talk back to me," said. "You, a weak little Earthborn, you are nothing. Your entire species is nothing. You should be grateful we let you work here at all." Other workers had stopped to watch now. Humans and aliens alike gathered at the edges of the depot, drawn by the shouting, could feel their eyes on her. She could feel their fear. The humans were afraid for her. They had seen this before. They knew how it ended. A would hit a human and the human would fall and nothing would happen. No punishment, no justice. Just another reminder that they were at the bottom of the station's food chain. The aliens were curious. Some of them were amused. A few workers were already laughing, nudging each other with their elbows. This was entertainment to them. A big predator playing with small prey. Took a slow breath. Her heart was beating faster now, but her hands were steady. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her mind. "Control your emotions. Let them think you are weak. Let them think they have already won." "Sir," she said one more time, "please calm down. I am just doing my job." That was when hit her. It was not a punch. It was an open-handed slap, the kind you would give to a misbehaving child. His palm was massive, covered in rough scales, and it connected with the side of his face like a slab of concrete. The sound echoed across the depot, a sharp crack that made everyone flinch. Stumbled backward. Her clipboard fell from her hands and clattered to the floor. Her cheek burned with pain. She could taste blood in her mouth where her teeth had cut the inside of her lip. For a moment, everything was silent. Then laughed. It was an ugly sound, full of contempt. He turned to look at the crowd, spreading his arms wide like he had just won a great victory. "This is what Earthborn are," he announced. "Weak, pathetic, they cannot even take a simple slap, and they think they deserve respect. They think they are our equals." Some of the workers laughed with him. The humans in the crowd looked away in shame. One young man, a loader named, clenched his fists but did not move. What could he do? What could any of them do? Turned back to, she was still standing, one hand touching her cheek. Her head was down. Her dark hair had fallen across her face, hiding her expression. "Now," said, "you will process my cargo immediately, and you will apologize for wasting my time. Say you are sorry, little human. Say it loud so everyone can hear." Did not say anything. She lowered her hand from her cheek. Slowly, she raised her head. Her hair fell away from her face. She was smiling. It was a small smile, cold and sharp like the edge of a knife. Her eyes had changed too. They were no longer the eyes of a quiet worker. They were the eyes of something else entirely. His laugh died in his throat. For the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed his face. "What are you smiling at?" he demanded. Bent down and picked up her clipboard. She looked at it for a moment, then set it carefully on the counter. When she straightened up again, her stance had changed. Her feet were shoulder-width apart. Her knees were slightly bent. Her hands hung loose at her sides. "I was waiting," she said softly, "to see if you would apologize." Stared at her. "What?" "You will not apologize," continued. "I can see that now, so we will do this the other way." And then she moved. To the aliens watching, seemed to disappear. One moment she was standing behind the counter. The next moment she was simply gone, replaced by a blur of motion that their eyes could not follow. They had slow reflexes. They were faster, but even they could only see pieces of what happened. A flash of dark hair. A glimpse of a spinning body. The sound of impacts like hammer strikes on meat. Time moved like honey. Every moment stretched out long and clear. Her grandfather had taught her about this. "In a real fight," he said, "your body will move faster than your thoughts. Trust your training. Let your muscles remember what your mind forgets." She vaulted over the counter in one smooth motion. Her feet touched the floor and she was already moving toward. He was big. He was strong. But he was also surprised, and surprise made people slow. His first strike was a palm heel to his chest. Not his scales, which were thick and hard, but the soft spot just below his ribs where the scales were thinner. She put her whole body behind it, driving forward with her legs, twisting her hips to add power. The blow landed with a dull thump. Eyes went wide. All the air rushed out of his lungs in a single gasp. He bent forward, his mouth open, his clawed hands reaching for something to grab. He reached for her. That was his second mistake. She caught his wrist and twisted, using his own weight against him. In Hapkido, they called this principle, or harmony. You did not fight against an enemy's strength. You redirected it. You let them defeat themselves. His massive body was his weakness now. He was falling forward and helped him fall. She stepped aside, pulling his arm in a direction it was not meant to go. At the same time, her elbow came up and struck the side of his head, right behind his ear where the skull was thin. The sound was like a stone hitting wet sand. Crashed to the floor. The metal deck plates shook with the impact. He tried to push himself up, but his arms would not obey him. His head was ringing. His chest burned. He could not understand what was happening. Did not give him time to understand. She dropped her knee onto his back, pinning him to the ground. Her hand found his wrist again, the same one she had twisted before. She bent it backward, applying pressure to the joint in a way that made the bones grind against each other. Screamed. It was not a roar of anger. It was not a battle cry. It was a scream of pure pain, high and desperate, the sound of a creature that had never known real suffering until this moment. "Stop," he gasped. "Stop, please." Held the lock for one more second. Then she released him and stood up. She stepped back, putting distance between them, her eyes never leaving his body. Lay on the floor, gasping and whimpering. His arm hung at a strange angle. His scales had lost their shine. He looked smaller now somehow, broken. The whole fight had taken less than 20 seconds. The depot was silent. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The crowd stared at like she had grown a second head. The workers had stopped laughing. Their mouths hung open in shock. The humans looked just as stunned, but there was something else in their eyes too, something that might have been hope. Straightened her uniform. She brushed a strand of hair from her face. Her cheek was still red where had slapped her, but she did not seem to notice or care. She walked back to the counter and picked up her clipboard. She looked at it for a moment, checking that nothing was damaged. Then she turned to face the crowd. "Inspection will proceed as scheduled," she said. Her voice was calm and steady, like nothing had happened. "All cargo must follow standard regulations. There will be no exceptions." Nobody argued. Nobody even spoke. Looked down at who was still lying on the floor. His crew had not moved from the ship's ramp. They were staring at their captain like they did not recognize him. "You may want to take him to the medical bay," said. "I think his shoulder is dislocated. Maybe some ribs too. He should recover in a few weeks." She paused. "And sir, next time you want to hit someone, make sure they cannot hit back." Then she returned to her work, as if the most important moment of her life had not just happened. Behind her, the crowd slowly began to move again. Workers whispered to each other in a dozen different languages. Some of them pulled out their communication devices and started recording, capturing the image of the great lying defeated on the ground. The young human loader walked over to where lay. He looked down at the captain for a long moment. Then he smiled. "Hey," he called out to the other human workers. "Did you see that? Did you all see what she did?" They had seen. They would never forget. And before the night was over, the entire station would know. Station security arrived 11 minutes after the fight ended. By then, had been carried to the medical bay by his embarrassed crew, and was back to checking cargo manifests like nothing had happened. The officer who came to take her statement was a human named. He was one of the few humans in the security corps, a tall man with tired eyes and a scar on his chin from some old fight. When he saw standing calmly behind her counter, he had to stop himself from smiling. "I need to ask you some questions," he said, "about the incident." "Of course," said, "I understand." Pulled out his and started recording. "Tell me what happened. Start from the beginning." Told him everything. She spoke in a flat, factual tone like she was reading from a report. The captain arrived. He demanded special treatment. She refused. He became angry. He struck her. She defended herself. "And you did all that in 20 seconds?" asked. 18, I think. I was not counting." Shook his head slowly. "I have been working security on this station for 15 years. I have never seen a human take down a not once, not ever." "There is a first time for everything," said. She did not tell him about her training. She did not explain about Hapkido or her grandfather or the 18 years she had spent learning how to fight. That was her business, not his. Finished taking her statement and told her she was free to go. As she walked away, he called after her. "Hey, just so you know, that piece of garbage filed an assault complaint against you." Stopped but did not turn around. I expected he would. "It was dismissed 30 minutes ago. Station cameras show he hit you first. Self-defense, clean and legal." Paused. "But even if there were no cameras, I would have made sure that complaint went nowhere. Some people deserve what they get." Looked over her shoulder. For the first time, there was something like warmth in her eyes. "Thank you, officer." "Thank you, miss. You made my whole year." The news spread faster than fire through the station. Within an hour, footage of the fight was everywhere. Someone had recorded it on their personal device and uploaded it to the station's network. From there, it spread to other networks, other stations, other systems. By morning, millions of beings across the galaxy had watched a small human woman destroy a trader in 18 seconds. The reactions were mixed. They were furious. On their world, this kind of humiliation was unforgivable. Clan released a statement calling a dangerous criminal and demanding her arrest. Nobody took them seriously. The video clearly showed striking first. The other alien species were shocked but curious. Many of them had never seen humans fight before. They had assumed, like everyone else, that Earthborn were weak and harmless. Now they were not so sure. But for the humans of Nexus 7, the video was something more. It was a symbol. It was proof that they did not have to be afraid anymore. In the corridors and cafeterias, in the workshops and sleeping quarters, humans gathered to watch the footage again and again. They cheered when moved. They laughed when fell. They shared the video with their friends and families back on Earth, saying, "Look, look what one of us did. Look what we are capable of." Became famous overnight. She received 17 job offers in the first week. Security firms wanted to hire her. Trading companies wanted her as an escort. A famous warrior sent her a personal message asking to spar with her. She turned them all down. She also received 3 marriage proposals. 2 were from humans. One was from a species she had never heard of, a small blue creature that apparently found combat skill extremely attractive. She turned those down too. The only offer she accepted came from the Human Workers Collective, a group that represented all the human laborers on the station. They asked her to teach self-defense classes. Nothing fancy, just basic moves that ordinary workers could learn to protect themselves. "We cannot all be fighters like you," the collective's leader, an older man named, told her. "But we can learn to be less afraid." Agreed. Her old supervisor suddenly became very polite. He stopped shouting at the human workers. He stopped making comments about their inferior biology. One day, he quietly transferred to a different department on the other side of the station. Nobody missed him. Left Nexus 7 as soon as he was released from the medical bay. His shoulder would heal, the doctors said, but it would never be quite the same. He did not file any more complaints. He did not demand any more special treatment. He simply took his ship and flew away, and nobody on the station ever saw him again. Some people said he was afraid. Some people said he was ashamed, did not care either way. He was gone, and that was enough. 1 week after the incident, stopped by depot during her shift. He was off duty, dressed in civilian clothes, carrying 2 cups of hot tea. "I heard you are teaching classes now," he said, handing her one of the cups. "That is good. The humans here need someone to look up to." Took the tea and sipped it. It was sweet, the way she liked it. "I am not a hero," she said. "I just did what I had to do." Smiled. That is exactly what heroes say. He left her alone with her tea and her thoughts. Outside the depot windows, the stars burned cold and bright against the endless dark. Somewhere out there was Earth, the small blue world that had left behind, the world that had made her strong. She wondered if her grandfather was watching. She hoped he was proud. 6 months passed. Classes grew from a handful of students to over 100. She taught 3 times a week in a converted cargo bay on Deck 12. The space was not pretty. The floor was hard metal. The lights buzzed and flickered, but it was big enough and it was theirs. Most of her students were human, dock workers and mechanics and clerks who had spent their whole lives being pushed around. They came to learn how to fight back. They came because they had seen the video. They came because they wanted to be like. But not all her students were human. A few joined after the 2nd month. They were thin and fast and curious about human fighting styles. One of them, a young male named something that sounded like wind through leaves, became one of best students. Then came There were only 3 of them at first, young ones, barely adults by their species standards. They kept to the back of the class and did not speak to anyone, but they watched everything. They learned. One day after class, asked them why they came. The biggest one, a female with pale scales, answered for all of them. "We saw the video," she said. "Was a fool and a bully. He thought his size made him strong. You showed us that strength comes from skill, not size. We want that skill." Nodded slowly. "You understand that I will not teach you how to hurt people. I will teach you how to protect yourself and how to protect others. There is a difference." "We understand," the young said. "That is why we came." Accepted them into the class. Some of the human students were angry at first. They did not want to train beside the same species that had oppressed them for so long, but would not hear their complaints. "A fist does not care about species," she said. "A broken arm does not care about politics. In this room we are all the same. We are all students. Anyone who cannot accept that can leave." Nobody left. One evening, after a long training session, a young human woman named sat on the floor, rubbing her bruised arms. She had arrived on the station only a month ago, fresh from Earth, still getting used to the strange smells and stranger faces of alien life. She had heard the stories about before she even landed. Everyone had heard the stories. "Teacher," said, using the respectful term that the students had started using, "can I ask you something?" Sat down beside her. She was tired too, but she tried not to show it. Teachers were not supposed to look tired. "Ask." "That night when hit you, you could have just reported him. You could have let security handle it. Why did you fight?" Was quiet for a moment. Around them, other students were packing up their things and heading home. The cargo bay echoed with footsteps and quiet conversations. "Do you know why humans are here?" asked finally. "On stations like this so far from Earth?" Shook her head. "We are here because Earth is small and crowded. We are here because we need resources, need trade, need connections with other species. We are here because we have no choice. The galaxy is big and we are newcomers. If we want to survive, we must earn our place." She looked at with steady eyes. "But earning your place does not mean accepting abuse. It does not mean bowing your head every time someone bigger than you raises their hand. The galaxy watches how we respond when we are challenged. If we cower, they learn that we can be pushed. If we fight, they learn the cost of pushing us." Nodded slowly. "So you fought to send a message." "I fought because I was tired of waiting. I fought because I could. And yes, I fought to send a message. Not just to everyone. To every species that looks at humans and sees weak, short-lived creatures that can be ignored. I wanted them to see what we really are." "And what are we?" asked. Smiled. It was the same cold, sharp smile she had shown, but softer now. Warmer. "We are survivors," she said. "Earth tried to kill us for 200,000 years. Ice ages, plagues, predators, wars, famines. Every disaster you can imagine, we faced it. We survived it. We survived things that would have destroyed most species in the galaxy. That survival is in our blood. It is in our bones. It is in every cell of our bodies." She stood up and offered her hand. "The other species have forgotten what that means. They have lived in safety for so long that they have forgotten what it means to struggle, to fight, to survive against all odds. They look at our small bodies and our short lives and they think we are weak. They are wrong." Took her hand and stood up. Her bruises still hurt, but somehow they did not seem so bad anymore. "One day," continued, "the galaxy will understand. They will learn that humans are not to be underestimated. They will learn that we are not prey. We are not victims. We are the children of a world that tried to kill us every single day, and we conquered it anyway." She walked to the cargo bay door and looked out at the station's endless corridors, filled with aliens of every shape and size. "They will learn," she said, "one lesson at a time." Behind her, straightened her back and squared her shoulders. She thought about her home on Earth, about her family, about all the humans scattered across the galaxy trying to make their way in a universe that did not want them. She thought about standing alone against a giant, unafraid. and for the first time since leaving Earth, did not feel small. She felt proud,